Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group Biweekly Sync. It is April 8th, 2021. I am Patrick Rodgers, your host for this call. Got a great agenda as always. Latest updates on SharePoint Framework, patterns and practices updates, new community samples, what's new there, picture time, and then we've got three great demos as always from Nandeep, from Peter, and from Vesa. Teams Meeting Questionnaire App and Image Editor, which is super cool to see, and then Viva Connections Desktop and Extensibility. Excited to see what's new there and what's coming. But first, we always like to talk about how do you participate more in this call or the Patterns and Practices program all up. And always, we encourage you to demo on these calls. So if you have some cool work you're doing for your company or your customers, and it is something that is okay to share, so, not everything is okay to share if you've done work for other folks. So do get that checked out, but absolutely welcome you to come demo your work on this call. If you're interested in demoing anything you've been working on around client-side development, using any of the patterns and practices stuff, other client-side libraries, super excited to have those demos on the call. Just reach out to myself or Vesa. We will get you scheduled on an upcoming call. Also, of course, you can always contribute on GitHub. Contributions take the form of reporting issues, submitting pull requests, or helping with issues and questions. So welcome all of those contributions from folks, and always welcome your feedback. That really helps us shape the program and helps shape what we deliver in these calls and the rest of our offerings. So we got our page O links. So the real link to remember here is aka.ms/m365pnp. That's going to take you to the open source initiatives and samples program all up. So it's going to give you links to all of these other things, including our developer videos, which are developer topic focused videos on specific things like auth or creating your first web parts, things like that. We've got SharePoint community videos, which are the recordings from this and all of our other community calls. As well, we've got open source organizations within GitHub, SharePoint, PnP, Office Dev, and Microsoft Graph. All welcome your participation and contributions to those locations. And then we've got a whole ton of different sample galleries for web parts, extensions, list formatting, and Teams samples. aka.ms/m365pnp will get you links and information about everything happening in the Patterns and Practices program. And now, sharing is caring with David.
Thanks, Patrick. Well, friends, as you may know, Patterns and Practices community is an open source and inclusive community. We have lots of tools and resources for you to utilize and contribute back to, but we also understand that sometimes the hurdles to contribute back or even just using those resources can be somewhat limiting and hard, make it difficult for you to get involved. So Sharing is Caring is here, provides live hands-on guidance sessions. We'll walk you through a whole host of different topic sessions. As you can see, we've got everything from first-time contributor down to first-time presenter, everything in between for developers, non-developers. And so we invite you to join any of these sessions. They're all free, safe space, non-recorded, so you can ask any questions you like and get involved and collaborate. Next week, after the monthly call, we've got our monthly Ask Me Anything session, where we're going to have members from the CLI for Microsoft 365 team there to answer any questions you might have around CLI. And of course, we've got our office hours and buddy system initiatives as well. So please take the time to go register for any of the sessions that interest you. It's been a really great opportunity to collaborate and meet other people in the community as well. aka.ms/sharing is caring. Patrick, back to you.
Thanks, David, for that update. This is a really awesome way to get started. So if you have questions, this is a fantastic resource. It's really kind of an open office hours kind of feel. Really, I encourage you, if you have questions, you're wondering how to get started, do check out these sessions. It's really great to see this in the community, driven by the community. So thank you to everybody who's attended this, and for David and Hugo and Luis for putting these on. Next, I want to mention we've got a Building Apps with Microsoft Graph Learn Together session. That's going to be broadcast April 14th, which is, I believe, next Wednesday. And we're going to have a PnP watch party. You can register for free, of course, aka.ms/PnP watch party. That'll get you into a meeting with other like-minded PnP folks who are interested in watching the Building Apps session on Learn TV, and join us. aka.ms/learntogether-graph is the link for the Building Apps with Microsoft Graph live stream. If you'd like to just watch it on your own, of course, that is absolutely cool too. So that's going to be a lot of fun and another great way to learn how to get started building graph apps. Next thing, I want to mention a preview for the Microsoft 365 Extensibility Lookbook Gallery. This is a way to get in and understand different ways to extend Microsoft 365 across different technologies. So not just SharePoint, but OneDrive, Office, Teams, as well as other technologies, Power Automate and Power Apps. So lots of different patterns to follow here and different ideas on how to extend these different services to really meet your customer and company needs. And with that, we will transition to SharePoint Framework updates with Vesa.
Excellent. Let's go to, I have two slides here. So first of all, status related on SharePoint Framework 1.12. You might have noticed that we released it, we pulled it away because of the quality issues. So by default, right now, if you install SharePoint Framework, you'll still get 1.11, which obviously is fully functioning, works in Teams and all of that stuff. Now, we are looking into starting 1.12.1 public preview within upcoming days, potentially within upcoming hours. We're just finalizing our internal quality assurance. And after that, those operations have been completed, we can actually start a roughly 2 weeks long a public beta. And that means that there will be 1.12.1 version packages available in NPM, not as the default packages, but as an option to install. And the intention of this one is basically that people are able to double check that their solutions are working and there's no last minute surprises on any of the features which are intended to go live with 1.12. And the current plan is to release 1.12.1, which is the fixing version of 1.12 by end of April. If you go to the following slide, we also list that what's included in 1.12. We kind of talked about this one quite a few times. If we can get to the following slide, here we go. But the new thing here is that we are going to introduce Node version 14 support as part of this 1.12 release. So we're catching up on the Node version properly, and then all of the other stuff is basically stuff which we mentioned in the past as well. So more focus on Microsoft Teams, Meeting Extensibility support. We're going to have actually a demo on Meeting Extensibility today as well. And then there are certain fixes which are included, of course, in the 1.12.1. But that's a quick summary from this side. We're going to talk about some of this future stuff in the later stage on the last demo today. Throw it back to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Face, for that. And I do, when the beta comes out, this is going to be a really valuable opportunity for the community to test that out and report any findings back. So encourage all of you, if you have a chance, try updating your existing solutions when that beta is released, and do report back. This is, I think, going to be a great way to work in the future. So really want to encourage folks' participation there. And now PnPjs Client-Side updates with Julie.
Well, thank you. So we have a release coming out on Friday, April 9th. 2.4.0 release is scheduled. We have just lots of docs fixes and some unit test updates. And we do have one fix for the add chunked file names with apostrophes. That fix is going to be going out. So keep your feedback coming. Also, the final call on the V3 planning and discussion issues. So there is an issue pinned 1636. It's the overview for the V3 plans. And then it has links in it to discussion issues for further conversation. So if you go in, review that issue, see if there's anything you want to discuss or have questions about, and please do feel free to put your thoughts and concerns or questions in the discussion issues. We are going to be closing feedback on V3 on April 15th. As always, please follow M365 PnPjs on Twitter for the latest updates. And that's all I have for today. Back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie, for those updates. Do encourage your feedback on the V3. Certainly looking for everybody's thoughts as well there. CLI for Microsoft 365. New beta 3.9 is out with creating Viva Connections desktop app package, adding site app permissions, adding planner plans, and retrieving SharePoint user profiles, and more. Also, as well, some great sample scripts showing you some common ways to use the CLI. I encourage you to check those out and install the latest beta from npm install -g at pnp/CLI. CLI, Microsoft 365 at Next. The CLI, for those that might not be aware, is a great command line tool, works cross-platform, allowing you to perform many common SharePoint both management and sort of data manipulation activities, and a really valuable thing to have in your toolbox, especially for doing consistent site setups and simple provisioning for testing, and now available natively in the Azure Cloud Shell. Very excited to see that. Next up, reusable SPFx controls. So we've got React Controls 2.6. React Controls 3.0 is now on hold, waiting for that 1.12.1 release. And then same for the property controls 3.0. So those will be updated with the 1.12.1 release. They had some things they were depending on changed in SPFx, and so needed to make some updates for the 3.0 branches. And then React Property Controls 2.5.0 is now out. So definitely check these out. If you are unaware what these are a set of reusable controls for React that you can drop into your projects. The React controls are designed for use in the body of your web parts or application customizers, and provide some great out-of-the-box looking functionality, such as the animation you're seeing there with the animated dialogue. And very cool stuff. And the property controls are designed for use in the edit pane of your web parts, providing a great, again, out-of-the-box looking experience, saving you a lot of time and effort to create some very robust and complete experiences. Next up, Community Yeoman generator updates. So PnP generator-SPFx 1.16.0 is out. Angular 11 is now supported, thanks to Chandani for getting that support in there, and other updates as listed there. Future improvements working on upgrading to SPFx 1.12.1 as soon again as that is released. And then always you can npm install -g at pnp/generator-SPFx for all the latest there. The SharePoint or the PnP SPFx generator is built on top of the out-of-the-box SharePoint project generator, and it gives you all the same dependencies and base libraries that you would expect, but with some additional configuration options when you set up your project. So if you're looking to use things such as Angular or Vue that aren't supported by the out-of-the-box generator, this is a great way to create a consistent project setup experience for you and your team. Next up is modern search. So building modern search experiences with flexible web parts is really the idea here, and you can compose these different web parts to create a search portal experience for your users. So 3.19 is in progress. That's going to have some issues related to paging and a few other things, as well as working on the v4.1.0 release. That is out as of March 20th. That is a full breaking change from the 3.x releases. So, but brings you a lot more capabilities and a new way of handling things. So check out both of these at ak.ms/pnp-search for all of your search portal building needs. Next up, we're going to go to SPFx samples with Hugo.
Thank you, Patrick. So if you've ever wanted to build something new using SPFx, or you just need some inspiration, we recommend that you go take a look at our SPFx sample repositories. We have two repositories, one which contains extensions and one which contains web parts. And these are the updates for the last 2 weeks. On the extension side, we have a new extension called Send to Teams from João Mendes, which allows you to send an item from a list to an adaptive card into Teams, and it looks awesome. On the web part side, we have an update to the calendar by Mohamed Amer, who updated the prompt message when deleting single events versus repeating events. On the staff directory side, Ari Gunawan updated the web API permissions so that it would be easier for anyone to just add the new web part. Mike Homal created a new advanced page properties web part, which replicates the functionality of the page properties, but it adds improvements. Chandani also updated the data table using the UI to be a bit more consistent with the SharePoint list, using theming as per the current theme, and added custom pagination and all sorts of new other things. We have a new web part called Company Stories by Luis Nanez. The web part allows you to add images to a SharePoint list, and then it renders it with a UX that's very similar to Instagram Stories or Twitter Reels, or insert your social network here. It's a great way to engage employees, showing relevant content with a well-known visual appearance. We also have a new video banner by Mohamed Derali, and you can use this web part at the top of a page. It's a full bleed web part, so that means that you can actually have it appear at the full width of your web page, and it allows you to have a nice video banner with a title on it. And finally, we have a new update or new web part by a new contributor, Sam Collins, who updated or created a new web part called Document Card FAQ. So it uses the Fluent UI document card with questions and rich text formatting, and there's all sorts of actually controls that are being used. Sam, I believe, will be demoing this with David later in May. So welcome to Sam and all the new contributors, and thank you for everyone for your samples. That's it for me. Back to you, Patrick.
I'm not David.
I know. I'm so used to giving that to David.
Awesome stuff as always. I want to just thank everybody who's contributing samples and updating samples. It's really fantastic to see that community work continue to grow and evolve over time. So just thank you to everybody, and thank you for Hugo and others for kind of shepherding that along. It's just really exciting to see all the work there by the community. So it is now optional picture time. My presentation has ended, which should only mean Vesa is preparing to take our optional picture time photo. So I would encourage you to turn on your camera if you are so inclined. This is, of course, optional, but a great way to sort of show off who is in the call.
So let's see, are we hitting the 50? I think we are hitting the 50. We are already recording. So let's do some waving, everybody. So thanks, everybody, for joining once again. It's great to see the faces of the community, and we're going to take a screenshot out of this one as well. So thank you, everybody. Oh, there we go. Much better. Now it's actually looking what I was expecting that to do. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Awesome. Good to see the faces behind the names as always. So I think that's a quick demo and a quick video, but let's jump on the demo section. Patrick, who do we have online?
All right, our first demo is going to be Nandeep. Nandeep, if you're ready to go, please take it away.
Yeah. Yes, hi Patrick. So hello all, good morning or good evening. Firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to have me here to present our sample to build Microsoft Teams meeting app with SPFx. And this particular sample has been developed with SPFx version 1.12 before it was pulled down. All right. So myself, Nandeep Nasan, I'm Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services. I'm from Pune, India, and I have been mostly working with SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure. And I'm privileged to have this sample developed along with my colleagues, Ravi Kulkarni and Smita Nasan, who are also working on SharePoint for many years now. And here are some social handles to get connected with us. So summary for this particular sample is that, or the sample that I'm going to demonstrate today is about building Microsoft Teams meeting app experiences with SPFx. So SPFx version 1.12 support for Microsoft Teams meeting app development. So this offers more power to the developers so that they can now extend SPFx web part to Microsoft Teams for building meeting app experiences. So this app provides a pre-meeting app experience for Microsoft Teams meeting attendees to ask the questions related to the meeting before it starts. So a quick introduction to Microsoft Teams meeting app. So this team meeting apps can deliver user experience for each stage of the meeting lifecycle, including pre-meeting, in-meeting, or post-meeting app experience. Depending on the attendee status, we can integrate tabs, bot, and messaging extensions in each stage of the meeting lifecycle. So team end user can access apps during meetings using the tab gallery. For example, we can have a Kanban board for pre-stage. Even we can have some kind of an actionable dialogue as a in-meeting experience. And maybe we can have the post-meeting experiences created using polls. So this specific sample, which is the questionnaire meeting app, is a pre-meeting app experience built with SPFx. So the questionnaire meeting app provides pre-meeting app experience for Microsoft Teams meeting attendees to ask questions related to that particular meeting before it actually starts. So if you have any questions to the meeting organizer or for the other attendees, this app lays down a foundation to create a forum where you can post your questions before the meeting starts. And these questions then can be handled by organizer during the meeting. So this sample is available under PnP repository at this particular location. And then along with all of the documentation, prerequisites, instructions on how to get started using the sample. And again, this sample was developed using React.js with SPFx drop version of 1.12, which was latest available at the time of development and which supports this particular feature. So quick demo of this particular feature. So for that, let me go to the Microsoft Teams, and I'm to the calendar view of my Microsoft Teams. Once we click or try to create any of the meeting here, I can just type some name for this particular meeting. I will just call it as a PnP demo. I will invite a few attendees to this particular meeting. Right, and then I will send out this invitation. So this invitation has been sent out from my user. And again, for example, once we open up this particular invitation or this meeting app one more time, what happens is that here we do have a plus symbol. We can click on this plus so that we will be able to add our SPFx web part as a tab inside this meeting as a meeting experience. So I will click on this particular SPFx web part, which is a meeting questionnaire. And from here, we can click on add to get this added to Microsoft Teams meeting. All right, and I can click save to get this added. So this is the simple look and feel of this particular web part. So what we can do is this is kind of a pre-meeting app experience. So the attendees can go ahead, ask the question about this particular meeting. So for example, I will ask whether this particular meeting is being recorded, and then I will just click on save. So once I do that, this particular question has been saved against this particular meeting with the person who has asked this, what is the title of that particular question and when it was asked. So what can happen is when the meeting will start, the organizer can come to this app. He can see all of the questions for this particular meeting, and those questions can be answered during that meeting. Again, maybe what I will do is I will close this and just wanted to show you how it appears when we have multiple users submitting their questions for a particular meeting. So in this particular meeting, I had around 3 users, and this is how it looks when we have multiple questions being asked by multiple users. So this is very much simple that you can just add this app as a tab inside your meeting, and this can act as a pre-meeting app experience for your Microsoft Teams meeting. Quickly, the code walkthrough for this one. So this particular code is available in the PnP Git repository. But again, one more thing is that for this particular meeting, what happens is that this for this meeting to work with, we just have one background SharePoint list called as a Teams meeting questionnaire. This list can be created at any of the place in your SharePoint. So I just have created it at the root level of my SharePoint site. But again, you can create it at any of the site, whichever you want. And again, this particular location can be configured through the properties. So we do have few properties here called as site URL, which denotes this particular site where we have this list hosted, and then we have this list name. So again, why do we have these specified as the properties? The reason for that is once we add this particular meeting questionnaire here, here we don't have any option to edit the settings, and from there we will be able to set these values dynamically. So for that, we have this as hard-coded, but even those are configurable, that if you want to have any of the other site URL specified, it can be specified as the relative site URL. One more thing is that to expose your SPFx web part as a Teams meeting app, you don't need to use a specific host in the supported host property. So in the supported host, we don't have anything specified for Teams as such. Instead, what we can do is we can extend the Teams manifest in this SPFx solution with configurable tabs. So this is the manifest that we have, which is under the Teams folder. And we are extending it to be used as a configurable tab. And then we can specify these values here to specify those configurable tabs. Again, from where we can get this is we have a nice documentation from Microsoft here for building the apps for Teams meeting. And if you scroll down here, we do have all those information about what could be the, oh, sorry, not here, what could be the XML that we should specify over there. All right. So this is the place where you can find all that information. So what happens is that once we declare our app with the configurable tabs with the scopes and context, then it can define this particular scope, for example, team and group chat for the context which is defined in this particular values. For example, meeting details tab, channel tab, and this is the value by which we were able to see our SPFx web part as a pre-meeting app experience. So this value is more important to be specified in this manifest JSON. Secondly, then we discuss about these properties. So those has to be configurable from here, because once we deploy this particular app to Microsoft Teams, from there, we don't have any configurable option to set these properties. Next thing is, since we have this particular SharePoint list available here, to which we are adding all of that information, we have this item called as specifying the meeting ID, title, description, as well as author. So what happens is whenever we create any of the meeting inside Microsoft Teams, that meeting has got a unique meeting ID, which can come when we can create that particular meeting. And then we can use this as our kind of a primary key to get all of those values which are specific to this particular meeting key. And from here, we can specify like who has asked the question, what was the question, and all those things can be tracked from here. And then we do have this SPO service, which will help us to get the data from that SharePoint list, as well as we can add our questions back to that SharePoint list. And again, meeting ID is the unique by which we'll be able to identify that question is for that specific meeting. And then we do have few React components, at least couple of React components. So first one is the first thing, which is showing this kind of an activity description for all of the items that we have inside SharePoint list. So this particular activity item will iterate through all of the items that we have in SharePoint list, and it will show this kind of an view for the meeting organizer as well as the other attendees, so that they can see what are the questions has been submitted for this particular meeting. And then again, once we click on this new question, we have another component here, which will just help you to add your question, and then that question can be saved in a SharePoint list. So this was very simple implementation that we just have one SharePoint list, and to which we can use to identify those particular questions being submitted for pre-meeting app experience with this unique meeting ID. For the deployment of this particular project or this particular solution, it has got two things. First thing is that we need to deploy this solution to SharePoint. So we can bundle the solution using Gulp bundle, package the solution using Gulp package solution, and then we can deploy that particular app SPPKG file to the SharePoint tenant app catalog. And while deploying, we should make sure that this solution will be available to all of the sites in the organization. Second part will be that we have this Teams folder. So we'll have to zip the content of this team folder, which is 2 images that we have and this manifest JSON. And then we can upload this zip as a custom app inside Microsoft Teams. And from there, it can start working. All right, so that was a quick demo. Again, just to reiterate, we do have few limitations here that we don't have any property pane configuration support for this pre-meeting app experience. So only thing that we can do is we can probably specify all those configuration in our manifest, and then once it is deployed, we won't be able to reconfigure those because here we don't have any option for that. And then again, this particular solution doesn't work with channel meetings because I thought it might be very much simple with the channel meetings because that channel will be associated with the teams, and then that team will in turn have the SharePoint site to which we can store this specific information. But unfortunately, this doesn't yet work onto the channel meeting. This is only or this can only work onto the meetings which can be set up from your calendar. So these are the two limitations with this particular solution. And then again, here are few of the references. For example, if you want to read more about the implementation, I have my extensive blog here. And then again, thanks to the solution from Alex for making this solution Teams theme aware, so that whenever we will change the theme, it will show all the controls with those colors. And with that, I'm done with the demo. Thank you very much for this opportunity to showcase the demo.
Awesome
back
stuff.
to you, Patrick. Yeah.
Thanks, Nandit.
Yeah, thank you,
Sorry,
Nandit.
Patrick.
Yep.
Sorry, Patrick. I'm going to jump on the limitations. Sorry, Patrick. Sorry. I just want to call out on the limitations that those are not SharePoint Framework specific limitations. Those are limitations related on meeting apps for now in Microsoft Teams, and they are aware of that and they're working on it. And there will be improvements for the meeting applications in Microsoft Teams for sure. So it's a big investment area. Sorry, Patrick. So.
No worries. So, Nandip, thank you very much. Great demo, very exciting solution there. And our next person is Peter is up. If you want to go ahead and take over the presentation.
Hello, everybody. Grüß euch from Austria. My name is Peter Paul Kirschner, and I want to show you the SPFx sample React Image Editor. I want to jump directly to the demo and then take the story behind the sample afterwards. So here it's my workbench, and added already the web part, and then I go to configure. Here you see the PnP reusable control file picker. I pick the picture Monterey Bay Aquarium and then open it. On the top of the image, you see the different manipulation options you have. You have here, for example, resize. You can lock the aspect, enter a number, I say 800, and you can also do it with the mouse. When I remove the lock aspect, I also can change the width and the height. The next thing is you can crop. You can only take a part of the image. You can move it. You have the same ability to crop a part of the picture. Then you can flip it. You can flip it vertical and you can flip it horizontal. Then we can rotate it. You have predefined values to rotate the image or rotate it back, or you can do it with freehand. The next thing is to zoom, to scale the image. You can make it bigger, and what is important, maybe you can do it again. You can make manipulations again and again. So afterwards, I crop it again, and then I say I want to apply a filter. In this example, I want to try the sepia filter. What have we done already? We can show it in the history, and we can make an undo, and we can also make a redo. You see it in the history, it comes. When I take the history and move the crop before the rotation, then the result changed, because some manipulations are not so good to see that change the result, some not. So, and you can reset it. As soon as you say, I have done a manipulation with the image and I use a new picture, then the old manipulations are removed. There's no API call in the background. It's all done in the browser. So let's switch back to the slide. So the motivation behind was, Celum is a partner company of mine, and they produce a digital asset management, and they want to bring the different types of assets from their product called Content Hub to SharePoint. This digital asset management helps to organize assets and bring the assets to the right format to the different system. It takes care of the image rights and has an overview where the assets are used. One use case was to connect the Xylem Content Hub to SharePoint, so an end user can pick assets from the Content Hub. By default, the Microsoft File Picker cannot be extended, so cannot be extended with a custom data source. So the idea was born to make a custom web part. And 1 year ago, in the year 2020, Microsoft adds crop and scale functionality to the default image viewer. At this point, we have to improve the custom web part with image manipulation functions. And so we start with the proof of concept, and this was the output of the proof of concept, what you have seen in the demo. So the sample is written in SPFx 1.4 and React 15 because it's also the focus that we support SharePoint 2019. Thanks to Xylem that I got the permission to share the complete source with you. From the beginning, it was written as a reusable component, so the integration into a new SPFx web part should be can be done in an easy way. So here we have the normal component, and the only thing is to add in the render method the image manipulation. You need some settings. For the most important thing is the image URL. Then you have some settings. We have seen in the rotation you have buttons. And these buttons you can configure outside of this control. Then you have a settings array and the corresponding thing, the settings event when something has changed. And this is what it looks like. We made a resize, a rotate, a flip, a scale, and a crop. So the order is in the array already. What's the concept behind this control? I started with a plain HTML page to explain it. As simple as possible, we load the image. In this sample, I load Parker to help me to explain it. And here we load it, and as soon as the image is loaded, we call a function. This calls image received. Here we pick up the canvas element of the DOM tree and request to get the context of the canvas. The next thing is we draw the image on this canvas. And for to see the next effect better, I wrote some text on the image. So, welcome Parker, you are a great top-up model. The next thing is I want to flip it, and each effect in the canvas starts at the left top corner. For this reason, we have to move Parker up, and then we use the negative scale to flip Parker. So this should be the output. So let's go back to the source code. The structure is directly under the source folder. Under components, you find the image manipulation. All things you have seen is in this part. You find the grid here, also the filters, and also the localization area. So when we take a look to the image manipulation, this is the main field. We have image change as a function, and also here, because when the image change or is initially loaded, we have to load the image. And here you see the same what we have before in our Parker sample. The next thing is we have to apply the settings array. We have it here, and we have it also in the component did update, because the array can also be updated outside of this control. So, and then we have to loop over each element of the settings array, and then we make only a switch. What we have to do, so one thing is flip, rotate, scale, crop, resize, or filter. And when we expand the flip, we see the same two lines we had before in our Parker sample. So, thank you that I can share it. Please provide feedback. I like issues. I like positive feedback and negative feedback. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, that was very cool to see that. And the history thing, I think, blew everybody away. So very, very cool demo, very cool capabilities you've done there. So thank you so much for presenting that. And our next presenter is Vesa. So Vesa is going to follow up on 2 amazing presentations so far today. So no pressure, Vesa, what do you got for us?
Sure, really good demos. But thank you for queuing this up. So awesome stuff from Nandeep and the team, and then from Peter. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And I'm going to take the rest of the presentations related on Viva Connections Desktop and Extensibility. Now, to be clear, we do have a special topic on next Tuesday on our monthly communities around Viva Connections Desktop, where we're going to go more detailed on the value proposition, how to set it up, how to configure that, and all of that. Today, we're going to only focus on the extensibility, or that's the main topic of today. But again, you'll understand how the system hopefully works better, what are the options to extend and change, what's visible in the Viva Connections Desktop, and what does it mean in practice. That's really the objective of today as well. Now, before we go there, I wanted to actually show some updated slides related on our overall message, but Viva Connections and Viva, Microsoft Viva in general is a really, really big thing in our pipeline. So it is considered as a new kind of an application, even though it's kind of a combination of the SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. So if you think about the extensibility in the Microsoft Viva, and especially Microsoft Viva Connections in this case, we talk about SharePoint Framework. So the SharePoint Framework, even though it's called SharePoint, it's not only for SharePoint, it is also for Microsoft Viva Connections and of course for the Microsoft Teams. And we're investing heavily on the story that you can reuse the same component in multiple different areas. We know that there's some improvements still to be done here and there, and all of that is being addressed, of course. In general, SharePoint Framework has been surprisingly successful. So we haven't actually talked about how successful, except pretty recently we started saying, well, right now, SharePoint Framework is being used by tens of millions of end users using third-party components every single month. So tens of millions of end users are using third-party components built with SharePoint Framework every single month. And that's a pretty mind-blowingly big number, considering that there are I think Jeff Deeper said in Ignite that there's, as an example in SharePoint Online, there's 200 million end users. Of course, that number has already moved forward because Ignite was like a month ago. The numbers are just leaping forward all the time. But there's the SharePoint Framework has been adapted super, super well throughout the historical things, and the growth is just phenomenal. Now, as part of this transition, then we are introducing Microsoft Viva, and just to be clear on explaining also what is Microsoft Viva, it is basically a set of products. So Microsoft Viva is kind of a product suite, or I'm not from marketing, so I'm not super sure how they actually position this, but from a simplification perspective, it's a suite of products which are part of a larger brand, which is then the Microsoft Viva. For now, there's 4 of the different applications, which all have their own licensing and usability story. Some of them are free, like Viva Connections Desktop is completely free. There's no license implication as part of their SharePoint and Teams license. Some of them, like Viva Topics, has a specific license for a monthly usage based on a user. Again, if you're interested on the cost details, have a look on the documentation. For the Microsoft Viva Topics, Naomi Moneypenny was actually doing a great demo and coverage on that one, including licensing discussion in the last monthly community call for SharePoint. But today, we wanted to talk about the connections. And connections is really about the fact that we are combining the best of both worlds, truly, from a Microsoft Teams and a SharePoint Online perspective. So we're making that SharePoint Online integrated more natively within Teams. We have supported certain level of this kind of an integration in the past. I've even created 2 videos related on that one in YouTube, which have like 10,000 views or thousands and thousands of views, which is pretty cool. But the Viva Connections takes that to another level. So there's an additional level of integration and an improved experience when we do this matching between a SharePoint Online and Microsoft Teams. And what it actually means is that we are having Basically a custom branded application created. We're going to talk about the future and all of that stuff in the pretty soon as well. But right now you can create a custom branded app. You can actually have an access to your global assets and global navigational assets and information directly from this custom branded app icon. So when you click it, you'll see the global navigation. Right now, that, by the way, isn't working for most of the tenants, because at the moment the app bar deployment is in hold because of random issues, which I can't go to a more detailed, but that will continue pretty soon. I think the app bar is now out roughly in 10% worldwide. So that's the reason why I haven't actually seen that functionality yet demonstrated that much. Supports intranet search. So when you're searching something in the Microsoft Teams, that actually is available from the intranet, well, the search bar, accessing the intranet search as well. And when you press enter, you will be redirected to your enterprise search UX based on your tenant settings. You also have a full screen now support with the header navigation, actually as a footer navigation with contextual actions to support collaboration. So in the past, when you embedded a SharePoint Online site in Teams, navigation was gone. There was additional, let's say, adjustments or additional inconveniences related on that experience. And that all of that has been addressed with the Viva Connection desktop release. And the key point here to understand is that you as a customer, or if you're a partner, you are the one who designs what's available in this UX. So we as a Microsoft, we do not dictate any of these capabilities. You are the one who designs, for example, applications based on this experience, and then you surface those as individual personal applications in the inside of the Microsoft Teams. So we're truly getting the story integrated, and you can expect in the future that this is getting much better and better and better. So this is only a start, what we're seeing right now. How do we get started on this journey? Is that you create a SharePoint Online communication site with your preferred design and content. Again, you design what is there. We don't dictate what has to be in there or what's available in the site, even though most of our marketing material always showing the same picture. So don't get fooled on that. You are in control of defining what's visible in the Viva Connection desktop. You can use any SharePoint Framework extensibility options. So basically, you can use any custom web parts, any out-of-the-box web parts, any SharePoint Framework header or footer extensions in that design as well. So again, you are responsible for designing what's available inside of this view. So full control. For the best possible experience, you will set that site as a home site in the tenant, not needed necessarily, but that gives you the global navigation support when you click the icon in the left navigation, and the global navigation should be enabled as well. Again, right now that capability isn't yet working worldwide because it's not fully rolled out, but that's going to be addressed relatively soon. After all of that has been done, you create a Viva Desktop app solution. And right now, this is done using a SharePoint Online PowerShell script, PnP PowerShell, or CLI for Microsoft 365. So the three options, they all result exactly the similar kind of a manifest solution and a solution file, which it then can deploy to the Microsoft Teams deployment and control that to be visible using the app policies. So basically, you can say that for all of the employees in your company, whenever they open up Microsoft Teams, your own Contos or Litware, whatever AdventureWork, whatever is your company name, application is visible in the top left corner. And from there, there's the corporate communicational stuff, which is a typical scenario, but there could be much more. There could be alternative experiences, again, up to the design, up to the innovation of the customer and you as a partner. Now, what are those extensibility options? I just want to make sure that we are super clear. You have full control. Said 25 times, but it's super clear and super important that you understand you control what's included in the Viva Connection experience. And again, technically, you can have multiple experiences, but there's always the one primary one. The primary story is basically that you said there was one site currently as a home site in a tenant, and then you expose that as a Viva Connection desktop experience. But technically, you can have multiple experiences exposed. So there's no limitation of how many applications are being exposed. So you can have additional ones as well. You can use all of the same out-of-the-box custom SharePoint Framework web parts or out-of-the-box or custom SharePoint Framework web parts as normal in SharePoint Online. So technically, it is your SharePoint Online portal, which we're integrating directly in the inside of the Microsoft Teams. And you can extend the experience also using SharePoint Framework extensions like header and footer extensions. We're going to show a quick demo on that one today, just to show off that is actually truly possible. And obviously, in the larger scale, this means that the same component, which can be then exposed in the Viva connections, in a SharePoint, or in the Microsoft Teams as a web part, as a tab, or a personal application. So again, we have this power of flexibility of one implementation, and then we can expose the same piece of information in the multiple locations, so that the end user can access the information which is relevant for him or her or him in the most convenient way, which is really, really cool. Now, there's a good question from Aravind. Viva connections only work with Teams. Can we have an independent SharePoint site without using Teams? Absolutely. So this, just to be super clear, what you're seeing here is SharePoint communication site, which can be accessed directly using a browser, or then we bundle that as a Microsoft Viva connection application. It's just a matter of creating and surfacing that existing SharePoint communication site inside of Microsoft Teams in a more polished way. And right now, when we're doing this, we need to do this using a PowerShell script. We are creating this manifest file. All of that is getting much more polished as part of this journey. I'm going to talk about slightly the future journey, but I can't talk about too much. And we're going to talk about, in general, more on next Tuesday in the monthly community call. Now, let's actually have a quick demo on this one. I'm not going to spend too much time on the demo, but making sure that everybody understands what's possible. So first of all, the announcement of Viva Connection Desktop came last week. The reason why I'm explicitly calling it Viva Connections Desktop is that it's not really the full Viva Connections experience, which we exposed and released last Wednesday. From social media, we actually saw people reacting like, well, is this only the thing? There's so much more buzz and marketing moment on the February. And people might have actually got slightly disappointed, but it's actually much more than this. So there will be additional releases, additional capabilities, additional options during summer timeframe. And I think the next big conference where we're going to demo and talk about things is the Microsoft Build, happening on 25th to 27th of May as a virtual conference, which that's a free conference as well. So you can actually get more insights on what's happening. Now, what does it actually then mean in practice? So in the past, we already had a way of embedding a SharePoint portal experience inside of Microsoft Teams. And what it actually meant is that we're going to take a SharePoint site, you design a SharePoint site, and you were able to surface this one in Teams. And in this case, I've just created a random SharePoint site using the lookbook site. And let me actually quickly just show that one, just making sure that everybody is 100% aware of this. We are going to actually do a refresh of a lot of these designs as well pretty soon, more aligned to Viva Connections. But from here, you can easily surface example portals and sites and experiences. And then in my case, what I've done here is that I provisioned the landing template, and then I added a few custom web parts on the side just to demonstrate that you can design and adjust this any way you want. It doesn't have to be a root site, by the way. It can be any other site as well. So I'm just using a root site for a convenience perspective in this case, but it doesn't have to be a root site. So super important thing as well. But I have a custom experience in here. I have a few custom web parts, and we want to surface this inside of the Microsoft Teams using Viva connection way. Now, in the past, as a preview capability like that, we actually released this guidance already more than almost a year ago, from June last year, where when you exposed the portal inside of the Microsoft Teams, you noticed that you were able to do that, but the experience wasn't really optimal. There wasn't a navigation in top and all of that stuff. And yes, you could bundle things, but it wasn't really an optimal experience. And Viva Connections Desktop is really taking additional steps, moving this experience more aligned and more forward. So here is what I've done in this particular environment, where you can actually see now that exactly the same SharePoint online portal being surfaced as a Viva Connections application and experience in the Microsoft Teams. And it also works obviously in the desktop. So you can absolutely use the desktop experience. In mobile, there are things which we still need to adjust and improve. And I'll talk about that one a bit slightly after the demo as well. But here we can see a Viva desktop connections and a few things to notice. There's a custom web port. I could, of course, I can adjust what's visible in here. And a good point to notice as well that I have a custom footer, which is actually all the time floating on the page. So in my case, if I scroll down, you can see that the footer is all the time visible in the here. I'm not going to zoom in. Just well, let's see if I can actually get the experience slightly better. There, oh, wrong direction. Here we go. So now you can actually see that the left, the footer on the page is visible all the time. So I'm basically creating this kind of a shim where the information is available, and the footer, which is on the page. If I go back in here, you can see the same footer in the SharePoint Online page. It's actually being exposed in the same way in the Viva Connections desktop experience. By the way, if I would use this exactly the same color for this footer, that would start looking really cool. Anyway, something to consider maybe in your design and experience. But again, you can design and this page any way you want, any layout, any adjustments. You can come in the SharePoint side, you can do the modifications in here, and the same modification, of course, are then visible in the Microsoft Teams side. So it is just a normal SharePoint portal page, which you can adjust anyway as needed. So as an example, let's say something super classic on Leads example, and republish that one. And let's go back in the team side. I will have a look on the Leads as a personal application, which of course the same implementation works as a personal application. But now what I've done is that I've actually exposed a SharePoint Framework solution natively as part of the Viva Connections desktop. As long as it loads, there we go. And there inside of that page is a custom SPFx web part. On top of that, the SPFx web parts using Microsoft Graph behind of the scenes, securely surfacing information. But this way we can design whatever experiences we want to design, including all of the SPFx extensibility which we have available. Now, we're running out of time. Just going to pinpoint for the Teams extensibility, all of those metrics, and those are going to be updated as part of this one as well. So these do count in the future as an experience for the Teams extensibility. And then as a quick summary for the next steps, just to be super clear, this is just a first step of the journey, and there's going to be a more native experience to adjust and configure the Viva desktop Viva Connections desktop and the Viva Connections in general. From the marketing materials, you can actually also see that there's some sort of mobile experience being shown in a lot of these materials, and that's something which we haven't yet talked about openly. But that gives you an indication where we're also investing in the future. So that we're going to be a more investments and more extensibility points, more component types, more adjustments, which are targeted for a better configuration or better user experience options across multiple different devices. So all of this is coming, and more around the options, more details on the schedules, and all of that is going to be released in Microsoft Build 2021. Now, I'm going to close up this one. Patrick, if you don't mind, it's just easier this way because I have the slides here. Just a quick reminder, for next Tuesday, we do have a getting started with Microsoft Viva Desktop. This is more feature PM owning, not the extensibility, rather the positioning. What does it do? How do you set it up? What are the options on configuration? What are the administrative options? And all of that are going to be covered by Tejas and Pratik, who are the PMs who are actually responsible of creating Microsoft Viva Desktop. So they are the ones who actually started working on this one quite a few months ago or years ago already, and been working as the primary contact persons between the Microsoft Teams and ODSP, which is OneDrive and SharePoint. And they're going to do a 40-minute special session on next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. In general, the recording of the session will be available in 24 hours in our community of the channel. And then the next SPFx call is in 2 weeks from now, next Microsoft 365 general development call in April 15th. So a lot of community calls scheduled on, but there's a lot of cool topics as well. If you can't make the calls, you can always check the recordings from the YouTube channels as well. There's quite a few different community calls available. This week, we also had the Microsoft Graph community call on Tuesday and a few other calls as well. Please have a look on what's available. Go and check out those which are interesting ones, and then check the recordings for those which you cannot take when they are being broadcasted. But I think that's it, all we're going to do today. I will check the questions still after we stop the recording if I missed something and answer on those. But other than that, thanks everybody for joining. Sorry for taking 1 minute extra time today. And thank you, Patrick, for hosting. Thank you, Nandeep and the team, and Peter for great demos. And they will say I'll say a bunny running across the screen. That was cool. So thank you everybody for today. Recording will be out in 24 hours in the YouTube channel. Stay safe. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.